Yo, what's up, my automotive homies? Welcome to yet another episode of the AutoTalk Weekly Wrap, number 44 to be specific. And joining me in a slightly dusty Porticom out in West Auckland is
It's not that bad.
the man with the Aquas, Graham McDonald. How are you, Graham?
I'm good. I'm powered by energy drinks this morning. It's been one of those sort of 24-hour, 48-hour periods. So if I start hopping around, you know why. Coffee's just not going to do it this morning.
And are you enjoying our 2 days of dry weather before it starts to go crappy again and we all get washed away next week?
Yep. Yeah, no, I dashed home and mowed my lawns last night for the first time in about 3 weeks. Actually, I called them the hay contractors rather than my motor mower. And I think on the dealership as well, everything's just relishing the idea of it being a bit of fine weather. You know, funny enough, though, even in the crappiest of the weather, and I'm talking the really, really crappy stuff, there were people out and about to say, oh, I'm start looking at cars. You know, did you realize that there's, torrential rain, it's pouring down? Yeah, we can look at a few cars and, see what's out there. It's amazing. It's all weather. So a nice day like today, you'd think, well, this is when everyone's going to be coming in flocking, but we've actually already had the people coming in the crappy weather. So maybe today they're all going to mow their lawns like me.
Everyone's gone to the beach. Like you, I got a message from my lawn mowing service provider yesterday. Let me know if you want another mow tomorrow, Arvo, before Summer Storm Apocalypse number 5 arrives on Monday.
Yeah.
Now, the irony is he only mowed my lawn 6 days ago, but then because we live in Northland, that is already like halfway at my shin in 6 days. So
Yes.
yeah, it's a busy time for the lawnmower people, and by the sounds of it, a busy time for some car dealers. So look, let's carry on from there. We've got quite a lot of news this week to cut through. We just to do some stuff that's not on the news list at this point. AutoTalk magazine is out Monday, and in that we have a coverage from the Clean Car Standard session, kindly put on in Auckland yesterday by Moana Blue, the team at Moana Blue. So don't forget to catch up on that. There will be a story about it today online on the actual email that this wrap is going out on, but also we'll have a broader coverage of that alongside some other really interesting stories in AutoTalk magazine out Monday, probably near the end of the day, I suspect, because they're always slow. But anyway, there's still plenty of people on holiday this week, so it'll be make some nice cyclone reading for Monday. Now let's get into the news, and if I just go through as usual and mess up all the tech on this stuff. Add to stream. Now here we go. The Motor Industry Association. Here we go. Motor Industry Association says it's relieved mandatory biofuel sales obligations will no longer be implemented. Biofuels will always be an option for some vehicle users, especially heavy vehicles, as Kiwis move to lower CO2 intensive transport systems. However, a mandatory obligation with the stated purpose of reducing CO2 emissions is not needed, as the transition to an ever-increasing electrified fleet is reducing emissions at a fast rate, says MIA Chief Executive David Crawford. It seems to me like they were pushing big into biofuels, but electric vehicles and electrification, hybrids and so forth seems to kind of be taking the load, and the government's kind of backed off it. They're seeing all these Aquas you're selling, and they're going, well, we're not going to make much gain by putting them on biofuels, are we?
No. I mean, what a great idea, said nobody ever with this biofuels thing. I actually don't recall anybody that supported it. It was a bit of a sort of a background piece of legislation anyway, let's be honest. I think when it comes to the government's things they're busily giving the chop to right now, this is probably on the no one will notice it anyway list. No one's going to miss it. And they're absolutely right. Alternative fuels by way of EVs and hybrids and everything else, and the fact that fleet's just getting a bit more efficient anyway. This just put this in the shit can list, I thought.
Yeah, and the argument goes too with a lot of those vehicles. They're running interesting cycles or interesting levels of compression to go for maximum economy. So throwing the variables of biofuels into the mix, I suspect, is just asking for trouble.
It is.
Unless you're going to go make a wholesale shift and expect everyone to do it, and then having all the cars engineered, and then that's just complicated with the used market. And let's just keep moving forward on electrification and other items, I think.
Sell more hybrids, Richard. Sell more hybrids.
Yeah. Now, in another update stuff, we've had the updated vehicle safety rating for 22 have landed. I'm not sure whether it's got a VIA alert header on that, but the vehicle safety rates for 2023 have been updated by Wakatahi, the NZ Transport Agency, and published on the Right Car website, along with information about crash avoidance features in used imports previously only made available to New Zealand new vehicles. That's a good thing to have on there, I would say, Mr. McDonald, even if it is complex as to what it's fitted to. But I guess if we're going to shortcut the thing on this, the big issue it brings is that it means that some cars that previously weren't able to grab a subsidy because they weren't listed with a 3 or higher safety rating have been added to the list, but conversely some have been dropped from the list. And the problem that creates for the market is that, while the new car guys can see this coming, the used car guys, you might have cars on a boat that no longer get a subsidy on them because they no longer meet that term.
Well, it's worse than that. You might have a vehicle in the dealership that is a rebate vehicle that was a 3-star, and you sold it, and it might have been a week between selling the vehicle and promising the rebate and delivering the vehicle, and suddenly when you go to reprint your labels, you find that it suddenly is 2-star and no rebate. And that, I'll say honestly, we didn't get caught out. We nearly did. There's one that I was very nervous about whether it had the shift or not. But I imagine there's quite a few dealers, and a lot. It's one of those things. As traders, you'll find half of the industry perhaps goes out there and does things responsibly and quickly. The other half, it's not necessarily that they're not responsible, but it's one of those get around to it jobs. And you walk out in the dealership on next Thursday and suddenly find out that all your rebate bits that you had are suddenly no longer qualifying. And so not only from a marketing perspective, you've lost that ability for a customer to claim a rebate, but worse, like I said, if you'd sold the vehicle and promised a rebate to your client, and in the meantime that shifts, who's going to pay for that? Some notice would have been nice. Yeah, some notice would have been nice. And I think, like everything, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but some lead into these things. Are you listening, NZTA? Some lead into this in terms of giving the industry time to adjust. Even a week or two is far more preferable than a suddenly overnight shotgun, this vehicle no longer qualifies. Who knows what you've got in the mix in the meantime?
Well, I think so I spoke to David Vinson last week or early this week, and as we said in the story, he indicated to us that they're working with Wakatahi on some form of system where they can potentially, hopefully, reveal the new ratings to dealers or to traders or importers in advance. So they talked about up to 3 months, which I guess is really what you need for a lead time for imports. And I think that's fair enough because, these dealers are generally trying to do the right thing in regards to bringing in a stock mix that meets the systems as they've been arguing. It's a fun one. If we've got Kit Wilson from VIA, hot off the press in the comments section saying we're arguing we need 3-month lead time between announcement and effect.
Yep, that's right.
The government has not yet accepted that argument, but at least they're working on it. It's not being ignored. That I think is an important point to make, and hopefully we get some progress with that. So let's move on to the next story and to the business side, people and places, I guess. Former UDC General Manager of Dealer Business, Don Atkinson, has been confirmed as the company's new Chief Executive Officer. Atkinson will take on the role from March 1, while current Chief Executive Wayne Percival will join the board as Non-Executive Director. Chairman Dr. David Morgan says the UDC board is very pleased with the appointment of Don Atkinson to lead UDC. This was a carefully designed succession plan, and the board have significant confidence in Don to lead UDC. Don has been with the UDC for over 20 years, during which time he has worked across the business, including as head of lending, head of risk, general manager of dealer, and most recently, Chief Operating Officer. And I think that comment is very important. Don has worked very closely with the dealer market before. He's well known, he's well liked, he is a very sharp operator, and I think that it's good that someone from the dealer side of the business has taken the top role, because he's going to have a better understanding than anyone as to what it is that dealers want and dealers need in regards to their financing. Have you chatted to Don before, Graham?
No, I can't say I have actually, Richard. Not at all, actually. But there's a really good point that I think we're seeing a move for some of these larger operations and corporates in New Zealand to promote people from within, and promote people from within that have had industry experience rather than bringing in outsiders. It often just hasn't worked out so well. And I think kudos to corporates for recognizing now the need to actually bring that real world experience on board. And often more is not, that's the key to success to an ongoing business. And let's be honest, UDC are a very, very successful financial institution indeed. But you'd hate to see that withered away a wee bit by perhaps a lack of understanding of the marketplace they play in. So I think it's a smart move.
Yeah. And just want to acknowledge Wayne Percival. He's been, I think, a fantastic leader for UDC, and again, well known around the trade. He's been there a couple of times and saw it through the sale. So I'm sure he's enjoying a little bit of a stepping back, but it's good to see they've even kept his experience there in the form of a non-executive board position. On to a little bit of statistics. Vehicle shipments or vehicle arrivals were down 37% year on year in January, with a total of 14,000 arrivals, according to the New Zealand Customs Service. This compares to 22,274,000 in the same period last year. The split was 6,259 new cars. I think it's just passenger cars, and 5,211 used cars, and then trucks down by half to 2,354 new and 197 used. So, that's some low ass numbers there, Graham.
Yeah, but again, the statistics don't tell the story, and I'm sure there's a few logistics operators watching this right now shaking their heads going, that's not it. So for those that don't know, there is a shipping crisis we're in the middle of at the moment, and it's the poor logistics companies are stuck in the middle. So there's industrial action in the Port of Brisbane, and I think there's industrial action in other ports as well. We know that Australia has become a fairly popular diversionary market now for sailings on the way to New Zealand from Japan, as the Australian market gears up. But it's seeing these vessels moored offshore awaiting their ability to be pushed or tugged in. Not least of all, then there's some weather issues as well, and there's been a stockpiling of sailings up in the latter part of January, and the problem is just getting worse and worse and worse. And then to compound that, once those issues relent and the weather picks up a bit, although not this weekend perhaps, they've got to come somewhere in Auckland, and we've been advised that Auckland Port is now giving advance notice of delays of between 5 and I've heard up to 8 days for vessels to enter the port itself to discharge. So the problem gets worse. I've got a car on a boat that I bought back on the 3rd of December. I was looking at my numbers before I got on the show, and it got on a vessel really quickly. I thought I actually have it here for mid-January stock to sell. It is still bobbing around somewhere in the northern Tasman. I don't even know where it is now. I've sort of lost count of where it actually has got to. So these numbers reflect the logistical issues rather than the number of vehicles on board.
Yeah. So I guess the key advice from that would be to talk to your logistics companies if you are buying. Make sure that you give them lots of notice and just prepare for delays. It's not their fault, and I'm sure they're doing the best they can. But communicate with them and letting them know what you're up to is probably always the best thing to do. And probably the same if you're having to fund those vehicles that are going to come through now. You probably need to be just keeping in contact with your funder and your vendor to make sure that everything's all in place. I'm sure they are very aware of the situation, but communication is always a good thing in those situations.
Yeah, it's a really good point, that one.
Yeah. Now, on to our next story. Mr. Neeraj Lala, the Chief Executive of Toyota New Zealand, is celebrating 25 years with the company. He joined the company straight from completing an undergraduate marketing degree at Victoria University of Wellington. You can probably work out his age from there, people. He believes his long-term service and that of many other employees is a direct result of the company's supportive and nurturing approach to its staff and the belief that staff are the most valuable asset to the company's success. Lala started as a new graduate and was offered career development opportunities throughout the company, including frequent changes in responsibilities, completing an MBA with the full support from Toyota New Zealand, and including a 3-year stint with Toyota USA before becoming the company's chief executive. I was having a discussion with someone else in the trade about this the other year, is that, Neeraj is very much a talent. And will he see out his career here, or is he going to be off to head off to bigger, better things? Well, not better, to different opportunities, different challenges within the Toyota, the greater Toyota global network as we go. It'll be really interesting to see. I hope he hangs around because I think he is a great leader of that company. But they've got multiple people at the top of that company that are really fantastic leaders, and love them or hate them, Twitter New Zealand does a very good job at selling and delivering and a heck of a lot of cars and looking after their customers.
Mm-hmm. Can't argue with that, can you?
Yep.
But that's the issue that so many corporates of that size in New Zealand now have. It's a glass ceiling. So you've got a great talent pool at the top. Eventually, everyone reaches that ceiling. What do they do? And this is probably an issue facing Toyota with some fantastic people. What to do next? So, offshore perhaps?
We won't make any comments about Palmerston North.
I've got family in Palmerston North, I'll have you know.
So do I.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay, all right.
Yep. There's so
Hardy
much
boys.
to do there there's so much to do there that one of them built a scale train set that he can ride around his 1 acre section. So
I have ridden on that train. I've done laps around that certain person's house.
Right. Another appointment, we've had a couple today, is that Mannheim has promoted Andy Cox to the role of General Manager of the company effective from February 1, 2023. Cox was elevated from his former role as the New Zealand Sales Manager for the Salvage Department of Mannheim, which he has held for more than 5 years. But a team of amazing staff and great support from our Australian team, which makes this job so much easier. Cox says, I look forward to sharing the success as we continue to have in our salvage vision across the rest of the business. Very good appointment there. Very well liked. Very well regarded. I think Andy will do a great job in that spot. He's kind of had I guess not a baptism of fire. He's been obviously very busy dealing with insurance issues at the moment regarding the floods. Maybe he'll have a few more to deal with next week. So, I think considering how big of a part of the company Salvage is, having Andy move to the lead of the whole New Zealand unit, I think is a good move. Have you ever dealt with Andy or the team over? Well, I guess you deal with the team over at Mannheim on a frequent basis, Graham.
I do. Andy, no, but I've dealt with the team over there for quite some time now and been through various changes and shifts. So 2 things. First of all, smart move Mannheim, once again, employing somebody to the top from within that knows the business rather than importing someone from Australia that has no idea how it works here. And secondly, they do have a very, very good team. And in salvage, they've got arguably one of the best teams you could ask for in New Zealand in terms of experience. I won't name names, but Mohammed, looking at you, who I think are well placed to see this particular phase of the business through with the flooding, but also take it further steps forward because you've got the right people giving you the backing you need. So well done, team.
Yep. A cool little event coming up in Wellington is the Fleet Expo Wellington on March 8th, which will see more than 100 industry professionals and subject matter experts discuss the latest trends, opportunities, and challenges for light fleets in 2023 and beyond, including net zero, safety, and efficiency. Fleet Expo Wellington is a one-day event being hosted by eRoad and the Greater Wellington Regional Council at Boomrock in Ohario Valley. Such a cool facility out there. It's that's going to be a cool event. I hear someone called Richard Edwards from Auto Media Group will be speaking. How that works, I do not know.
What could he possibly have to say?
Yes, well, exactly. No, I'm going to go down there and just run through, I guess, a little bit of the product roadmap for electrified vehicles. People get to hear me speak for a little bit of time. Maybe we'll discuss some of the weird things we've done on electric vehicles, Graham. And I'll let the listeners work out what they are.
It could be a bit of a mixed bag on that one. You can always speak about non-electrified vehicles too. You do this. Mr. Edwards guy does have some experience in non-electrified vehicles as well. Just saying.
Yeah, I do. But the theme is very much the journey to net zero.
Well, it is Wellington, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, there's definitely going to be other vehicles there, but that's just going to be the area I'm going to run through, and there'll be the latest, electric and battery hybrids on offer. These eRoad events that have, this is the second, they're pretty amazing what they're putting together there. If any of my distributor friends are listening and you're not already on the guest list or not already represented there, I would suggest you knock on their door. I can help direct you in the right direction. And if you are going, have a great day, because aside from hearing me speak, Mad Mike is going to be leading the vehicle experiences on the track, Which is interesting for a net zero event, I guess.
A net zero commercial and fleet. So maybe he might drift a couple of Mazda 6 wagons around the car park, or maybe a new Scania, perhaps. Get it sideways.
Light vehicles. Now, Audi New Zealand has launched a tool to secure pre-orders for the Q4 e-tron and Q4 e-tron Sportback. In conjunction with the launch, online reservations open from February 9. Arriving in New Zealand from April, the range comprises 2 cars. The models are relevant here. The interesting thing is seeing that they are bringing a online experience to be able to purchase the car. You know, we're slowly seeing this come into new vehicle websites. A lot of thought has gone into ensuring the tool creates a seamless brand experience at all customer touchpoints, says Audi New Zealand General Manager Dean Sheed. With a little human contact, it's important to us that customers are well informed throughout the process. The tool allows customers to create a personalised vehicle online, including the colour, wheels, and additional sound and design specification packs. They can then secure a production build slot for the customised car with a $5,000 deposit. So yeah,
so just like Tesla.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, just like nobody's ever done that before.
Well, yeah, other brands have too, but I think it's interesting to see that's coming through. I was having a chat to the current boss in New Zealand, Graham.
Sorry, thought I turned it off.
Ben Hamilton on an event I was on this week, and Nissan in New Zealand is actually going to be changed their website that allow people to order cars online right through to within a year or so, pretty much complete the whole transaction and do the finance through the Nissan website before the dealers is distributed out to the dealers for distribution. So that's interesting to see that stuff come through. Raises interesting questions about if a deal is done online, who owns the deal? Does it stick purely to PMA? Is it where the customer wants to go? There's all sorts of things like that brands have to work through. Are you tempted to set the Croydon's website up so someone can log in and just do the whole deal online, Graham?
We've debated about this, and obviously, don't forget, COVID, this forced everyone to look at whether this is possible or not. And so we've got about 70% of the way through the whole online experience process. But I think for the used marketplace, there's still a really high element of people that actually want to look and smell and touch the thing before they buy it. Just with the sheer variety of different makes and models and variations within them. And so that mechanism is already in place. I'd argue for most dealerships already have it in place and probably already practicing it as well with all the tools that were brought into play with financial instruments, with warranty instruments as well, that allowed you to complete a total process online for a customer. But then you end up in the situation we've got at the moment where you promise a customer a vehicle in the middle of January that you bought in December, and here we are on the 10th of February and there's still no bueno. So there's lots of different issues that used, I think, face as opposed to new. So answer to your question, no. Short answer, right?
Yeah. That is a very complicated.
It is
right. I am a person of an age who's grown up with so much digital stuff that I love it. I don't want to have to deal with people. We're sorting out buying a vehicle at the moment, and I've had to spend pre-approved finance. I've had to spend a couple of days chasing the dealership to just spit me out a VOSA. And this day I can just go and punch the stuff into a website and not have to do it, then the better.
You're just not my type of customer, are you, Richard? What's right? But you're buying a new one, right?
Yes, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, okay, so completely different, right? You don't walk in there and say, I don't like the scratch on those wheels. I'm not sure about the audio on that one. It's brand new. Used market is just so completely totally different. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Ask Carvana in America how that worked out for them.
Are you saying you're not selling consistent high-quality vehicles, Graham?
We're selling consistently higher than high-quality vehicles, Richard. But if you sell one today and the customer walks in and says, I didn't know you had a green one. Oh, if I'd seen that, I would have had the green one instead. No. Again, short answer, Richard, no. Yes, we're selling the higher than high quality vehicles. Online, complete, start to finish, very rare. Although, we do sell a lot of stuff sight unseen around the country. And you've probably seen some of our delivery trips and things that we've done, but it's a wee bit different. It's still somebody involved managing that process through that should be sending out your VOSA and sending out your paperwork and bits and pieces that you're obviously not getting. Speaking of which, and I'll name you, John Andrew Ford in the city, it has now been 3 weeks, I think, since I emailed you about your Mustang for sale and arranging a trade. What do my shoes smell? I'm actually now lost interest in your car because nobody wants to get back to me and try and sell it to me and trade my Ranger. So
Graham,
that's I know.
Have they still got the Mustang there?
Yes. Well, I see it's online, so I assume so. look, we would, if that happened here, we'd just take the salespeople down to a small shallow ditch and go. And I suspect, mate, we talk so much in this business about customer service, about customer expectations. And I didn't even allude in the email that I was in the trade. It doesn't matter. We've bought vehicles here ourselves personally from retail stores before. Actually, I argue a couple of us here on a regular basis. There's nothing to indicate that I'm somehow a dealer that you shouldn't reply back to my email. But I know here we guard our email inquiry, our phone inquiry with a sort of jealous zeal. Maybe they're selling too many cars. I don't know. I heard you can't get a new Mustang right now, so maybe I'll sell used ones either. Forget that guy. But it is pretty slack, isn't it?
It is. Maybe the used car sales guy is running around as his driver and he doesn't want to give it up.
Yeah, well, that's another reason probably not to buy it as well. It's another one I like better anyway now. So,
is that the red one? Is that the red one down the South Island?
No, that's sold.
Oh! Don't tell us which one you want because someone will want to run in and steal it from you.
Yeah, I know, secret squirrel, right?
Right. Let's end the podcast on a negative point. Very good point. I've been here to look at it. Infometric's latest forecast says the economy is heading for a recession this year as higher interest rates and weaker labour market hit household spending. It says the Reserve Bank's tightening in monetary policy is set to take full effect over the next 18 months, reducing excess demand in the economy and bringing inflation back within the bank's 1 to 3% per annum target band by the end of 2024. We expect a prolonged contraction in the economy through until March 2024 as fixed mortgages roll off and households grapple with higher rates, says Infometrics chief forecaster Gareth Kiernan. The Reserve Bank is on track to lift the official cash rate to 5.75% by mid-2023, taking mortgage rates above 7% for the first time since 2008. In tandem with other cost of living pressures, higher remortgage payments are starting to reduce spending volumes compared to the last couple of years. Anything else in here that's interesting?
Well, there's a point to this that in terms of spending, and I know it's not trying to make light or good of a situation that's been very difficult for many, but the flooding in Auckland has been so widespread, and the numbers we're hearing through from the insurers about the sheer amount of money to be pumped back into the economy through reconstruction, households, houses, cars, consumer durable goods. There's a substantial amount of money being pumped into the economy at this stage via reinsurers. That will probably see Auckland's economy chug along quite happily for quite some time right now. If you try to get a build at the moment or a guy that does drainage or bits and pieces, you are out of luck. And I'd say out of luck for quite some time too. And that might actually keep Auckland chugging over a bit longer than it might have.
I guess the problem being is if the Reserve Bank needs to raise things even further just to balance out that money going into the market. I mean, essentially they're trying to transfer money into the system. Yeah, I mean, look, it's good. It can be good at a dealer level because, of course, people finance through the dealer. We just see the figures on applications are just skyrocketing. But overall, yeah, it ain't good, and it does raise rates, and yeah, it's making for an interesting year.
It changes people's sentiment.
Yes, exactly.
That's the most important part.
Exactly. I think that's it for today. We've rounded out there at a lovely 29 minutes and 34 seconds. So by the time we've took the ending BS, we will be at 30 minutes. So
right.
Look, everyone have a good weekend. Stay dry, batten down the hatches.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in areas susceptible to flooding, I hope you've cleaned the drains and so forth and moved any cars to higher ground. Hopefully the weather people are all wrong. Most of them are in Wellington, so that's possibly likely. Raise the likeliness anyway. And
It's probably more wind, Richard, I think is the biggest issue with this one. It's wind damage rather than rain. And think of poor little Muggins me, I'm flying out to Sydney first thing Tuesday morning. I can only imagine, given the forecasting right now, how much fun that's going to be.
I don't know if you are.
I'm always the optimist, right?
See how you go.
This is the captain speaking. Put your knees between your head and kiss your ass goodbye.
Anyway, look, thanks everyone for joining us. We will be back again next week with the 45th AutoTalk Weekly Wrap.